It is time to get prepared. With the ban list right around the corner, as well as new meta decks coming out to the TCG, it is time to be picking up cards before they go up in price. Now, today's Market Watch, we'll be going over a few of those cards to be looking out for, especially with the new format right around the corner. So let's get right into it. And first off on today's Market Watch is Degenerate Circuit. Now, if you've been keeping up with any of the videos, especially on how to beat Vanquished Soul, you'll know that Degenerate Circuit is actually a real interesting card and honestly has a lot of room for price improvement. Now, Degenerate Circuit is a continuous spell card that says monster cards that would be returned from the field to the hand are removed from play instead. Now, there's a small fee of 500 life points each of their standby phases, but honestly, as we know, that's not too crazy in today's metagame. But monster cards that would be returned from the field to the hand being removed from play, that is very good, especially when Vanquished Souls, all they do is return their monsters to the hand to be summoning out their boss monsters. And if you are going to be banishing that Vanquished Soul with the Degenerate Circuit, that boss monster actually does not get summoned to the board. Now, not only does Degenerate Circuit actually have a real nice effect against decks like Vanquished Soul, but it also has a real nice price point as well. And that is honestly super surprising because Degenerate Circuit has only one pack printing, and that is from Cyberdark Impact. And the interesting about that as well is the two printings from Cyberdark Impact are rare as well as an ultimate rare. So let's get right into those prices. And for the rare, we're actually seeing near mint first eds, literally like 35 cents, 45 cents. But do keep in mind, once you get that 99-cent shipping, that does change the price a bit. So if you're gonna be buying two from one seller, it's looking at about 85 cents a piece for one rare Degenerate Circuit. And when we flip over to the ultimate rares, we're gonna be seeing they're actually not as crazy as they could be considering Ultimate Rare's price points right now. We're seeing near mint first editions at about $7.50, $8.50 after that shipping, so not as crazy as they could be overall. And again, honestly, considering that this is an easy out to decks like Vanquished Soul or a future meta deck even, I do believe Degenerate Circuit is a card to be considering picking up, or at least having a playset of rares in the near future. And if this card does end up popping off with only one pack printing, you could definitely guarantee a price increase in the future. Now, next up on today's Market Watch, and honestly one of the main cards, if not the main card I want players to focus on, is Gravekeepers Inscription. In some of the previous Market Watches we've done, I've actually gone over cards such as Silent Graveyard as well as Royal Prison, and that's because I do believe we're definitely going to be moving into a graveyard format. And that's why Gravekeepers Inscription is an insanely good card, because at the start of your main phase 1 you can apply one of the following effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So that's for the rest of your turn and your opponent's turn. Neither player can activate card effects from the graveyard, neither player can banish cards from the graveyard, or neither player can special summon monsters from the graveyard. So for 2 full turns, you're shutting off one of these functions from the graveyard for both players. And against decks such as Unchained or decks such as Horus that are coming out in the future, Gravekeepers Inscription is going to be insane in those matchups. And then not only that, but the price point right now for Gravekeepers Inscription is extremely affordable. We're actually seeing Gravekeepers Inscription sitting at about $3.70, and it's actually about close to $5 after that shipping is included. And I would like to note, this is a secret rare from Photon Hypernova. So not only is it an affordable secret rare, but since it's from Photon Hypernova, we are not going to be seeing a reprint from this card in this year's Mega Tins. So this card is prime for an increase in price, okay? And not only that, but we've actually seen quite a bit of movement in the market the last 2 days, and I do believe that is because we actually did have a tweet come out, I believe from Lofton, about this card against Unchained. And honestly, this was something I was going to be covering regardless into like the Market Watch, but after seeing that tweet, I had to in a way push out the Market Watch a little bit faster than I normally would, because I wanted players to understand understand that this is a card to be picking up now. If that you are going to be playing against all these decks in the future, Horus, Unchained, you need to be picking up Gravekeepers Inscription right now. Okay, I do believe $4 or $5 for it is not a bad price. They dip down to about $2-3 because once you hit that shipping, it's going to be about $3 to $4. But I believe if you're, having to trade value or pay value about $4 to $5, that is not that bad, especially since we see the game rotating from a deck format like Pearly and Super Heavy Samurai to a graveyard format like Unchained and Horus. So definitely go out, if you can, acquire your Gravekeepers Inscriptions, because I do believe we're going to be seeing a massive increase in price on this card in the very near future. After that, on today's Market Watch is Waybridge. Now, Waybridge is another interesting card from Photon Hypernova, and it is a trap card that says if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters than you do, your opponent must send monsters they control to the graveyard, so they only control 1 monster. So honestly, it's kind of a little makeshift evenly match, not quite as devastating, but you could say it could almost be played in a few decks that evenly match really can't. Maybe you're wanting to go first. Waybridge is a nice little card that can be activated kind of mid-turn. You don't got to wait for the battle phase to end. You don't have to let your opponent fully set up all the way to evenly. You can kind of do it mid-combo and start sending their cards to the graveyard, and you don't even need to control a monster to do so. So I do believe Waybridge, interesting card to consider. Not only that, again, extremely affordable secret rare. As we said, from Photon Hypernova, secret rare Waybridges are very, very affordable, literally less than $1, less than $2 if you're talking about shipping again. But for a secret rare, I think that's something to be considering, especially if we do see this somehow being played in future decks, maybe side in control of variants like, Eldritch Labyrinth, things like that. But Waybridge, interesting card to keep your eye on. And after that, it's a real funny card, and that is number 67 Paradise Smasher. Now, this is a rank 5 that takes 2+ level 5 monsters, and I definitely recommend using more than 2, and that's because once per turn, during your main phase 1, you can detach 2 materials from this card. Each player rolls a 6-sided die twice. The player with the higher total cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack until the end of the next turn. Once per turn, if either player rolls a 6-sided die or dice while this card has material, you can treat one of the results as 7. I think this is a real interesting effect, because since you can actually manipulate that total into a 7, being able to cut off an opponent's activated, where they can't activate monster effects or attack for a full turn, I do believe is something that could be manipulated in this game somehow. Whether that's like a Cyber Dragon deck, instead of going for Infinity, you're spamming out a Paradise Smashers, or even using the new numbers of Veil to bring it out. I do believe this card is worth looking into. And on top of that, again, extremely affordable for what it is, especially if this would be something to be, broken in the future. Now, it is a secret rare from Battle of Legends Relentless Revenge, so I'd like to say I know we're seeing an actual reprint in a lot of the Battle of Legends stuff soon, but I'm not too sure if Paradise Smasher would be seeing that reprint, given it's from A, Relentless Revenge, not Light's Revenge, and B, it's kind of been swept under the radar. I think they're reprinting a lot of stuff that just simply needs to be reprinted because of the price point. And as we see, Paradise is actually extremely affordable, literally less than $2 if you're going to be buying multiples. And if you're buying them from one seller, as we see here from Nightmare, looks like, you can get multiples from one seller, which is extremely nice. And again, if this is something that could be trolly in the future, I think it's something worth looking at. And I'd honestly like to see some comments about this card. And what are your thoughts about Paradise Smasher? And the last main card I like to kind of go over is Heavy Slump. Now, a lot of players are probably like, wait a minute, what? And yeah, it's right, Heavy Slump. And that's because he's a trap card. It says if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, they shuffle their entire hand into the deck, then draw 2 cards. They lose 6 cards. That's really good. Now, everyone's like, well, they have to have 8 cards in their hand. And it's like, yes, that's true. But I definitely know there's some players out there that control real hard with this card. Rather, they add 2 cards from the hand with like Gift of Greed, or, you know, they're trolling with cards like Gold Moon Coin, whatever it is. Heavy Slump is definitely something I could be seen played kind of in a really menacing way in the future. I mean, again, that is kind of a 2-card combo. If you use anything to make them draw 2 cards or add 2 cards, and they draw the 8th card for their turn, and you have Heavy Slump, your opponent's starting their turn with 2 cards. So just saying, Heavy Slump, interesting card. And not only that, it has a holo. That's right, from Mystic Fighters, it is a super rare Heavy Slump. And again, for the price point, you really aren't losing out on anything in case it does see some play. Literally 10 cents, 15 cents. If you're a direct, buyer, you're doing pretty good. But again, Heavy Slump, super rare from Mystic Fighters, is definitely something to be considering. Just, even if it's just really cheap and just trolly. Now, I definitely wanted to give some notable mentions to 2 cards, and that is Dark Contract with the Gate, as well as DDD Vice King Requiem, and that's because they've actually been seeing an enormous amount of teching in decks such as Unchained, and that's because it's actually kind of like free resources to the board that are also Fiend, and honestly, both are extremely affordable right now. We're seeing both have actually been printing from Ghost from the past, Second Haunting, and both have actually been seeing an increase in price as well. But never fear, because they're actually very, very cheap still. The King Vice is literally like a quarter, about $1.25 if you're buying one from one seller. And the Dark Contract, again, we did see the increase, but they are about 70 cents a piece. We see some for like 55, 70 cents, and again, that's like closer to $1.70, $1.80 after the shipping is intact. And we're seeing these the Dark Contract of the gates are slightly higher because players are playing 3 of the gates. Now, if you keep finding your way back to the channel, like, dang, Vengeful, the quality's kind of gotten a little better. I like some of the edits, I like the background, overall it's been a little better. Maybe you're like, man, I like $4 Gravekeeper Inscription. Some of the stuff you mentioned has been cheap before it shot up. Drop that sub. I really try to bring some decent quality content to the players out there before it goes up in price. I try to bring you some things and ways to beat decks such as Vanquish Soul and a bunch of the meta like the Cashier video that popped up. So if you're getting anything from the channel at all and you haven't yet, drop the sub, share the videos with your friends if you have subscribed, and definitely comment down below and drop the likes. All the interaction definitely helps, and we're trying to hit that 1,000 mark for the subscribers. We're getting up there, but we're trying to get there a little bit faster. And all those who have supported, I super appreciate you, because you guys are literally the real ones, okay? But as always, you guys stay safe, have yourselves a wonderful night, and suck it, nerds. And get yourself Gravekeepers Inscriptions.